Good evening, dear viewers of Smart 24 TV. We are again here for the Policon program, and my name is Dr. Joseph Tindyebwa. Together with our guest tonight, Rt.Major Awick Pollar. Rt.Major Awick Pollar, we have a lot that we appreciate that he does. He is a lawyer and is a retired major, not in any other security force other than the UPDF. And also, he's a senior veteran, we can recall, of the NRA, the Liberation Force, which we know that liberated this country by 1986. We appreciate you, sir, for the work done. And also, he's the Director of External Affairs at the NRM Secretariat, and he has held in various international portfolios representing Uganda on international forum. To be with you tonight is a blessing, and we'll be dealing with a topic of discussion that is referring to the economic and political analysis of Uganda post-independence. Tonight, you coming from the background, apparently serving at the NRM Secretariat, would like to appreciate for tonight and look at these two questions. Number one, does the NRM ideological pillars realistic for Uganda's economic prosperity? We'll go into the insightful discussion of such kind of question. And also number two, for purpose of the viewers and listeners who are following us, we'll also look at what is the projection of solving unresolved Ugandan economic and political questions in the next 5 to 10 years. At times they are calling it 2030, Agenda 2030. And in all this, we'll be looking into the future of the Uganda we want. Rt.Major Awick Pollar, it's a pleasure to be with you. Kindly may you greet the viewers and you take us through the package of what you are showing Uganda in the NRM government NRM-led government that has been meddling in the post-independence era. All other governments were short-lived, some 7 years, others 3 years, others 1 or 3 months. It is a long story for Uganda, but we should now have a new dimension of what will work for Uganda. It's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you so much, Doctor, and good evening, viewers. The question is large, but I think we shall be able to share in the experience and the information that we have gathered that eventually becomes knowledge. It is right and fitting that I talk as a director from the NRM because NRM is the government in power, meaning therefore NRM has the mandate to execute activities on behalf of the citizens. Now, it is worth noting that the areas that we are discussing are areas that are captured in Vision 2040. It is areas that are captured in the National Development Plan. So nothing exists outside the National Development Plan. And therefore, even a political party that is purporting to be advocating on behalf of the people should be cognizant of such a framework, because doing it outside the framework would mean an anarchical way of doing things, because the National Development Plan and Vision 2040 was worked out and developed, and we're supposed to achieve it. So in a nutshell, this question could be answered by that. But let me talk about the post-independence. As Doctor said, is that a bigger part of the post-independence, the biggest actor was NRM, or is still NRM. Because we have just celebrated Uganda at 60 years.
Yes, sir.
And out of these 60 years, we take 36, meaning that NRM alone takes more than half of the post-independence. Now, the post-independence economic status is that here you are, as a country, you are independent. What it means, therefore, is that you have a national budget, as opposed in the then, where the budget was appendage of the Queen's budget. because it was like a district of the Queen. So you now have a Bank of Uganda with a Ministry of Finance running its budget and its economy. So basically that is what is meant by post-independence. And as I said, the NRM takes a bigger chunk. Now, if I'm to look at it from the NRM perspective as the topic decides, is that NRM puts out manifesto to achieve the spirits and the actual plans in the National Development Plan. So NRM puts out a manifesto. This manifesto is sold to the people. It is marketed. It is explained to the people. Like any other party would be explaining their manifesto. All parties during election time go to the people. They explain to the people what their manifesto is. And in their best interest, or to their best understanding, every party thinks his manifesto is the best. So all of us go to the field to the people because Article 1 of the Constitution clearly states that power belongs to the people. So when power belongs to the people, it means therefore nobody else other than the people should decide. So for us as a party, we also design our manifesto and we capture all items that regard all aspects of the people of Uganda. But the whole framework is that it must manifest into the better well-being of a Uganda. Many of the implementations are economic in nature because, as we all know, the spiritual gains comes out of the material gains. So the well-being of the people can only be achieved through a good economic interventions. So we market this, and the last marketing that we had was 2021, where we have a mandate given to us by the people up to 2026. Now this therefore basically gives us a social contract with the people of Uganda, that the people of Uganda, having voted NRM in power, therefore NRM should execute the mandate up to 2026. NRM as a party, after securing the mandate from the people, after writing that social contract with the people, NRM forms a government. A government is simply an agency. In the principal-agency relationship, NRM is the principal, government is the agent. Government is executing the manifesto of the party that the people voted us. Now, in NRM framework of doing things, to achieve this, we have core principles of the party. What the party believes in, where the party believes that if we do this, then the well-being of our people would be better. There are many, but we normally center on 4 key ones. That is Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is to the effect that NRM believes that we can only exist as a strong people if we are all united at a continental level, because the world economic powers is so strong that small as Ugandans, we can't survive. The other one is socio-economic transformation. Maybe I come to that one later. Let me talk of patriotism. Patriotism is so core in NRM principle in that before you think of yourself or your community or your tribe, first think of yourself as a Uganda. And this one, many of us take it for granted. I like to emphasize this, that many countries who got independence, including others in Europe, have not survived because of lack of this patriotism. Because you think,
they love for their country.
Yes. Somali got independence around 1956. Somali is no more Somali. Sudan got independence, I think, around 1956. Sudan is now 2 Sudan, threatening to be a 3 Sudan if Darfur breaks away. Libya got the independence around 1959. Libya is now like 6 countries. Which other country? And many more. In Europe. Ethiopia.
I believe it is intact.
No. Eritrea and all these other countries broke from Ethiopia. Right from independence, it was not like that. And then you have even in Europe, where you have Yugoslavia, is no more Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia after Tito was a great leader. After Tito, Yugoslavia broke to the extent that Serbia and Montenegro qualified in World Cup. And when they were playing World Cup football, they had qualified for quarterfinal. Back home, they again broke into two. Serbia became another country, Montenegro another country. Now we are wondering if they won World Cup because they are one team. So where would the cup go? So the NRM attachment to patriotism is to the effect that it is good, ladies and gentlemen, if we exist as Uganda, not as the Republic of Acholi, the Republic of Kigezi or Bachiga, the Republic of Bunyoro.
There are some have talked the Matoke Republic.
The Matoke Republic of Buganda or Bunyoro.
Yes.
The Matoke Republic of Toro. It's really silly. Now, NRM has got stuck to that, that we must think of ourselves as Uganda, and we can only do this if we rally around the principle of patriotism, because many countries have not passed that. The other one is democracy. As we said earlier, that Article 1 of the Constitution says power belongs to the people. It's only the people who should decide who should lead them, how they should be led, and all that matters in. Who do they trust with the executive authority of the country? And that is why we have had repeated elections at all levels, to the extent that we're almost election fatigued. But in there, of course, we have challenges. That is for another day. The method of electioneering, for example, the involvement of money, the involvement of falsifications of results at various levels. That one is worth discussing, and I think there are systems that track it, but we need to do better.
Thank you. Now, I come to you. Thank you for the preamble. I gave you time because tonight, as we discuss politics and economics and holding the NRM-led government to have been in power since the post-independence era and is still in power. And I was, as you mentioned it, I was able to get the 60 years minus 36 years. So that means all other governments, around 9 leaders, 8 leaders, because the list is long, since 1962. It means NRM...
We can revise the list for the viewers.
Yes.
We are talking of Mutesa briefly as a head of state. We are talking of Bote. We are talking of Amin. We are talking of Lule. We are talking of Binaisa. We are talking of the shared presidency, 3-in-1. There was a government led by 3-in-1. And then we are talking of Bote 2. And then we are talking of Lotwa. And then we are talking of NRM.
Yusuf Lule?
Yusuf Lule accounted.
Yes.
After Amin.
After Amin, yes.
So, for clarity, we should remember. And I want to emphasize that...
Paulo, the other day you told me about Paulo Mwanga.
Paulo Mwanga was not a head of state. Paulo Mwanga, during what people call Paulo Mwanga's headship of the government, there was a shared presidency. Like we always talk in Christianity, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the Father. We had a shared presidency of 3 persons who were co-presidents. That is His Excellency Nyamuchoncho, Polycarp, who hails from Rukunjiri. Then we have His Excellency Saul Musoke. Musoke hails from around Natete here.
Musoke,
if you go to that international school, that's where I was buried. I buried him myself. Then His Excellency Wacha Olwol, who hails from Amach. Amach is on the way between Lera to Soroti. I also buried him myself. I've been so privy to deal with them. So those 3 were heads of states immediately after Binaisa. They are the ones who handed over peacefully president to Bote. Paul Mwanga was not a head of state.
That's very good. Thank you, Rt.Major Awick Pollar. I'd like us to go through this commentary, and you will continue the discussion in accordance with the package with us. The reason, dear viewers and listeners, we carry on this discussion is to remind us, much as this is a business channel that drives business, that the distribution of resources cannot come to a logical conclusion without the involvement of the political leadership, the political direction that determines whether there is a favorable environment for those who do business and possibly the policies that the country can rely on to deliver the services that can cause a socio-economic transformation. Having said that, our topic remains the economic and political analysis. Since post-independence era, there is a reason why Uganda decided to say no, we should not remain under, indeed, the directive, the authority of the Queen. But to many of us today, and among the political commentators, believe and they continue to ask themselves a question, some political activists, whether the independence we talk about, we have realized it or not. Some, they agitate and they say, since post-independence era on the political line, we've never had a peaceful transfer of power. And they believe that any other leader to come has been coming in by the power of the gun, and some are still saying that maybe even if another leader is to come in, may go by the power of the gun. But we who are patriotic, as you've said, and others who are peace-loving Ugandans, we are saying this dimension should never return to Uganda again because it affected the economic growth of the country, where we had some infrastructure built by the then time at the level of Ghana, how Ghana attained independence, and they maintained the infrastructure, social infrastructure. But our own here, it was destroyed during the days of Amin, and also the coming in of the NRM government, which had, of course, the war, which didn't leave everything the same again. As you recall, the Ruwer, if I talk about Ruwer, you know what happened. And also what happened in Masaka, which by that time, 1984, when I was young and I could be coming, you know, as a child, by that time at that tender age, and I saw how around 87, how most of the buildings were pulled down. And having said that, it is still a question that we present to compare the 24 years of other leaders, where we go, number one, on the part of the economic pillar, and we also go to the political pillar. Democratic transition of leadership. That's on the political pillar. On the economic pillar, there was socio-economic pillar. There was a need to fight against socio-economic injustices. The socio-economic injustices to be dependent upon, to depend upon those who were ruling us and deciding on our taxes is a question that Ugandans continue to compare. How much do we earn in terms of the production in agriculture? How much, what were we exporting before, by the time of the independence and now the independence era? We need now to be evolving to a society that is much more admirable in terms of economy and looking at the level of employment and maybe whether we have much room in terms of industrial development and so forth. To your analysis, what do you think we have achieved much, especially since the post-independence era, and what's still lacking?
Achievement.
The economy and the politics. That will drive us next to the unresolved question of whether it is true there is still maybe not yet a desired independence that Ugandans would have wanted.
Okay. Viewers, I really do not think that I take the pessimistic view that we haven't achieved. Some pessimists were saying that we have not achieved to the extent that they're even saying, why don't we rent out the country to a foreign power like colonialism, and then they run this country for some 50 years and we get it back. I think that is a very pessimistic.
Those are saying that, sorry for coming in a bit, they say that our national debt so far, we are equal to be like as if we are sold, because if we are to pay the current debt of 74 trillion, that will take many years, it's as if you are already sold. But it was just coming in. You had it up together.
Yes, but on the question of debt, the whole world is in debt. United States has more debts than any country. Japan has lots of debts. If we were to go on the countries having debts, then we wouldn't have any country. In other words, a country being an economic entity cannot avoid debts. That is why big economies like United States, big economies like Japan have big debts. So Uganda is no exception. And I think there's a formula, a threshold beyond which you shouldn't pass. And I think Uganda has not passed that. So that shouldn't really alarm us so much, because that is part of the economic cycle. You can't avoid it. So we can't rent out a country just because of... Then the United States will rent it to who? Because they're the world's biggest economy. The
question, Rt.Major, is that for them the ability to pay is assured, and they are even able to help.
And us? We are paying. In fact, what they're helping is they're helping on debts. They're getting debts and helping us.
Okay.
So,
okay, well, you
yeah. Now, I want to say that as a country, or as a third world economy, we operate against a very strong international economic system. And that is why it goes down to Pan-Africanism, because as a sovereign country, it may take us a long hurdle to overcome that. They have the global economic system has the ability to untwist a single country. So together we stand, and together we are stronger. But I also want to make some small clarification. You keep insisting that, and many political commentators in Uganda keep insisting that there has never been no peaceful transfer of power.
That it is war.
How I wish they could say except. Can't they create an exception? Because Obote II was handed over power peacefully by the shared president that I'm saying. Obote II it was called a military commission government, but they handed over power. Imagine in this case the military handing over power to a civilian. Instead, should have been the military taking over from the civilian.
1980.
Yes.
Yes.
A military government, it was military commission government headed by the three shared presidents who handed over power to a civilian. And we are completely dead silent about
so
this. I wish we could pick out some good aspect, because it will also morale boost us.
And kind of clarify, they believe before that military commission came into existence, it was after, indeed, a serious military confrontation against Amin, the regime, the government of Amin, and fumed out of power, and then the military took charge, and then they organized for...
And that is the beauty of it, that power is taken by military, and it is handed over to the civilian. That's the beauty of it.
Oh, wow.
That should be noted. In that, Amin was overthrown by real conventional war.
Yes.
Okay, not even guerrilla, but a conventional war which overthrew Amin. Binaisa was impeached, overthrown by parliament. But Lule was overthrown by military. And it was a military government. Isn't it beautiful that military government hands over to civilian?
That was
haven't we cited some good cases like in Ghana or in Nigeria where military government hands over to civilian and it is celebrated? But we are dead quiet about the Ugandan case where military and the military commission headed by the three shared presidents handed over to Obote, a civilian. This is what I'm saying. In fact, if it was a civilian who handed over to a civilian, there would be no news, because you know very well that it is not news when a dog bites meat, but it is news when meat bites dog. So isn't it news that our military handed over power to a civilian? And we are damn silent about this.
We are taking note of that. This is recorded.
We are damn silent about this.
This is recorded worldwide.
Yes, and we are damn silent. You see, when you pick the positives, it keeps you going stronger. But if you're really paranoid into all the negatives and negatives and negatives, the country is negative, you will never pick anything.
Okay, we're going for a commercial break. I want to appreciate the information shared with us. We are on DSTV Go TV. Those Ugandans diaspora, this is information you need to take note. And I do indeed also take note of the same. I was recalling as well by the time we obtained independence, 1962, it was not out of a war. It was also a peaceful, I think, handover by the colonialists. They said, no, we have allowed you, please, the Ugandan flag up, and our flag of colonialists down. It was not out of war, and also what you've cited. But there is much more other desirable, but it is good to note it. We are going for the commercial break. We'll be coming back. It is politics, good politics, that determines a very prosperous economy. Stay tuned as we come the next hour.